Ready for today's episode? It's a good one. We're talking about those moments in school that are so wild, so absurd, so completely unhinged and unimaginable. You literally can't make this stuff up. These are the things that you wouldn't see in a typical workplace.
Nicole, I was driving the other day and I was thinking about all these memories of our time being neighbors and living in the same cul-de-sac. And I think I never thanked you for the time that my kids basically lived in your garage for a year. Do you remember Tent City?
Do I remember Tent City? Of course I do, because we literally couldn't park in the garage. We gave up the garage for the betterment of the entire cul-de-sac. But oh my gosh, those kids, they set up a community in there.
I don't think I ever thanked you for it. Honestly, I had to coerce my kids back into our own home at night to sleep in their own beds because they spent every waking moment in your garage. It looked like these little Quonsets in your garage that had taken over the whole entire space. So thank you so much for caring for my kids basically for that entire year.
I didn't care for anyone's kids because they cared for each other. I stopped offering them snacks after week 1 of COVID. They just kind of did their own thing. And it's funny you say about the Quonsets in the different areas. They have a living room. They have a little area where they have their snacks, their kitchen. They had a games room, and they had set up tents and forts and blankets and the Gaga ball court in there in different areas. It was wild. They had their own little community going on.
I'm now thinking about the kitchen. I remember the food they had because I would send my kids, well, sometimes you fed them way more than me with food, like they had fruit trays and veggies and those applesauce pouches.
I actually am going to not thank you for a story that I remember about one of your children in particular. I remember sitting on my couch and it was quiet, like one of those moments as a mom, you're like, oh, I'm just going to sit and relax. And then all of a sudden I see something kind of out of the corner of my eye and then hear this big bang on my window. I thought a bird had hit it or something. And I look back and it is one of your children dressed in a skeleton costume, full face covered, nothing. I think I jumped 5 feet off that couch and I didn't even know who it was at first. And they had been hiding in my cushion container, one of those big ones where you hide your patio cushions in. And every single time that I open that container, still to this day, I think he's going to jump out at me in a skeleton costume. So thanks, but no thanks for that memory.
Thanks. No, thanks. Beware, because when you moved, we talked about having him go out and staging it so that he showed up at your door or came out of that same container. But then I was worried that you might have a heart attack. So we didn't, but it could happen someday, Nicole.
I'm going to be on watch.
Yes. He'll love to hear that you still remember it because he talks about it often. Nicole, do you ever find yourself in situations at school where things happen and you think, I'm pretty sure my husband has never experienced this in his workplace?
Every single day. And that's what today's episode is going to be about. It's all the things that you can never imagine happen within the walls of a school. And I know that we're going to only share certain stories today off the top of our head. And I know there's hundreds more that we could share. Every teacher out there is already thinking of the stories in their own brains that happen in their classrooms on a day-to-day basis. The one thing that comes to mind when you speak of, does my husband ever go through this? Okay. I remember being on a field trip and we were at the science center. And all of a sudden I get a text around lunchtime and it's Brandon's lunch. Okay. But his lunch consists of a filet mignon steak, these scalloped potatoes, asparagus. That was his corporate lunch that they had gone out to this super fancy restaurant. And I was standing there in the middle of the science center and it almost like was time froze around me because I'm literally trying to compute that this is his life, where in my life, I have 25 kids trying to sit down to eat lunch. Of course, this is grade 1. And I remember that day in particular, one of my kids forgot their lunch on the bus, even though I'd asked them a bazillion times, do you have your backpacks with you? So I was eating a half of a sandwich I had brought, and I had to go find a knife to cut my apple in half so I could share it. So I'm eating a sandwich that I've shared with a child, half an apple, while I'm standing up, and in one hand, I'm holding another kid's water bottle because they don't want to touch the table. It was like this vivid moment that I'm like, your life is so drastically different than mine. You're having a corporate lunch out And then he has the audacity about half an hour later to send me a picture of his dessert. First of all, he's still sitting down eating lunch. These lunches are not just like zero point 0.2 seconds, they're 2 hours. And here I'm at the science center sharing my lunch with a child while I'm standing up and trying to get everyone to sit down. Anyways, that's one of those stories that comes to mind about how different corporate worlds are or can be from classrooms.
Absolutely. That just makes me think of all of the restaurants my husband knows throughout the city, right? Because he's on the road a lot of times and he's grabbing lunch, and I feel like I don't leave the building. If I forget my lunch, I'm hooped. Sure, I can scrounge some snacks or I can get some snacks from the office, but like you have to be prepared at school with lunch or you're hooped. Do you keep snacks? Like maybe for your new position, like you've got to arm yourself with snacks right from the get-go until you find your wingman.
Don't you find like if there's ever something in the staff room, it's a huge deal for teachers. Like donuts in the staff room, or someone brought a veggie tray, or there's chips on the table. It's, whoa, we've hit the lottery. It's so different.
It is so different. That takes me back to when I was in administration. We had a team at the school that if we put an announcement on the PA about food, you literally could hear them running down the hallway. We knew which team was coming first for the food. It is so different. It's a different world. Oh my goodness. That makes me think of lunchtime at school. So I eat when my kids eat. And so just when I think everybody's settled, I will start to eat. And then somebody needs a thermos open. So I sanitize, open the thermos, sanitize, start to eat. And then just as I'm starting to eat, somebody comes up and they have a wiggly tooth. So we have to talk about the tooth. Do they want to try to wiggle it out? Do they want to wait till they go home? Do they want me to pull it out? I always offer to pull my students' teeth out, which is so crazy. But we have a teacher down the hall who loves to do it. And I think then now I'm in competition with her because I want to pull the kids' teeth out. I think I should have been a dentist.
You should have been a dentist. You realize they make about quadruple what we make as teachers, right? You should, that was a bad choice on your part.
When Derek was coaching minor hockey, well, he still is, but the kids are older now. But I remember when he was coaching Timbits, he came home and he would talk to me about how many kids showed them their wiggly teeth on the ice, through their helmets, through their cages. And I said, Derek, I just stared at him because I was like, that is my life. Like all day, every day, kids want to show you their wiggly teeth. I don't think that happens in the corporate world.
I would hope not. Speaking of teeth, okay, this is like really, it's funny. It's a choose your own adventure for this one. People, I don't think imagine that we have to deal with blood, vomit, or poop. One of those three things you're dealing with on a weekly basis in schools. And some people are good with all three. I know you're one of those weird ones that you can deal with all three. I, however, can deal with blood like no one's business. Like, bring it on. I am like first aider extraordinaire, okay? I could technically deal with poop if I had to, but I cannot deal with vomit. I can't even deal with my own 2 children's vomit. I will gag. So I don't know, like, how do you have a superpower that you can deal with all three? And I also don't think people realize that we actually have to deal with this. It is on us first before we even get the caretaker involved.
Okay, I'm not gonna lie. I can deal with all three, but when you said poop, I think I gagged a little
So
bit.
maybe
So that tells me
maybe not.
that tells me that that's the worst of them all. If I have to pick my poison, I'm not gonna pick that one. Blood, no problem. I can think of a time, speaking of teeth, this boy was hit pretty hard with the soccer ball and it hit him in the mouth and there was blood everywhere. And I just happened to be there, like saw the ball hit him. And I had my supervision bag, but I didn't have anything large enough to contain that or even try to slow it down. I was like, okay, I'm going to take my jacket off. And then I was like, or his vest is made of cotton. I'm going to take it off. So just pulled it up off his body, put it over his mouth, held him, right? Took him into the building. The vomit. I don't know. Do you guys have one of those? We have a vomit.
Yes, I know. And it's a powder that you put on top of it. If you were a teacher in my school when this happened, you will know the story. But I had that exorcist moment of a child, a poor child in my class that obviously did not know it was coming, or maybe didn't want to tell me, but just stood up and then projectiled all over the classroom. I'm talking, it hit books, it hit other kids, it hit desks, it hit floors. And I knew I had to go to her rescue because she was mortified, obviously. But I was gagging the whole time and trying so hard not to. So I remember having to pull my shirt over my nose as I'm like, it's okay, sweetheart, it's okay. Like it was, oh my gosh, it was horrible. And the reason why the school knows about that was because the teacher next door heard me gagging and had to come over to see what was going on. And then she looked and she's like, "Oh no!" And then we moved all the kids, cleaned up. It was a full exorcism in my room that day. I don't know what happened to her. She did not come back the next day. She came back obviously later in the week, but yeah, she had something fierce. But I cannot deal with that. So that does not happen in
That
workplaces.
I know that does not happen at my husband's workplace. When I first started teaching, I taught kindergarten, which I loved. Bless those kindergarten teachers though. Wow. I don't know if I could do that again, Nicole, but I loved kindergarten. My teacher mentor, I had lots, but the one that I was specifically paired with was a grade 1 teacher and she could not handle vomit. So I don't know if I would hear her or if she would just come to me, but I would honestly just leave my class. She would come into mine. I would deal with her vomit. She could not do it. And I think that's when like really I started to be able to handle it better because I was that's just my job. I'm her teacher next door too. I'm going to clean it up.
You got to share duties here because, yeah, but give me the blood every time. Another thing that I was thinking about is that, okay, if you were to get hurt in a workplace and you were an adult and you needed an ice pack, you would get like a regular ice pack. And maybe some schools have regular ice packs, but many schools I have been at freeze wet paper towel in Ziploc bags for their ice packs because you only go through about 102 ice packs a day in a school because every child needs one after recess. I don't know if you knew that. And every child needs one if they get like bumped in the coat room. There's something about an ice pack that just solves all the problems in elementary school. So instead of going through actual ice packs that you never got back, we would just freeze wet paper towels in Ziploc bags and still do. And that's what the kids get because then they just go in the garbage. That's, again, a weird thing that people might not know that happens in lots of schools. And maybe your school's lucky to have a budget for ice packs, but ours does not. So that's how we deal with it.
I think we might need to take yours on because we have an ice maker. It's small, but we have this little drawer where you pull out and grab the Ziploc bags and there's a minimum amount of ice cubes that we can hand out, right? Because the ice maker is small, it won't make enough. It won't keep up for the day. So we don't actually do those paper towel tricks. So I think we might need to do that. Okay, I need to share this one poop story because I'm still gagging a little bit. So maybe if I talk about it, I can forget about it. Um, so when I was in administration, my teaching load was in phys ed because I started out as a phys ed specialist. And my teaching partners and I were teaching a unit on drum fit. Do you know
I know.
the
Oh, yeah, I
big,
know Jump It.
right? So much fun. Two of our teachers were trained in teaching that, and I was just like the rah-rah hype girl in the background, supporting the kids and trying to keep them in the rhythm. This one boy one day was so sick, and we knew he wasn't feeling well. He wasn't quite the right shade, but he ended up having an accident in the gym. And so we were able to get him out of the gym, and my teaching partner could probably tell this story better, but we were able to get him out. Poor guy, he was so sick. He needed to be cleaned up and go home. But the odor, right, in the gym was something because he was so ill. Anyways, we were like, okay, there's still something in the gym. Well, my mom says I have a really good nose. I can sniff out anything. So now the kids have put the equipment away and they're lining up to go back to their classrooms, but we can still smell it. So it's on the equipment, right? So I'm going with my colleague. We are sniffing every single drum fit ball
No, stop.
to find it. And then we're like, we found it, right? Cleaned it all up. It was outrageous. That does not happen elsewhere.
No. Let's get away from that now. Like, no more blood, vomit, and poop for today. But I have a story for you that's not mine. It just came to mind.
Okay.
Speaking of gross things, I have a friend, and she told me this story just this week because I was telling her about this episode coming up. She's like, "Oh, I have a story for you." And She said that this little guy came to school one day and he's like, "Hey, on the way to school, I found a dead squirrel." And she's, "Oh, that's cool." And because he was really excited about it. So she's kind of like conversing with him about it. And so the story goes on. He tells where he found it and like where he saw it, what he thinks happened to it, how it got there. And then he's, "Do you want to see it?" And she said she instantly knew he somehow had it. And this is into the school day, well into the school day, like not first thing in the morning, just well into the school day. So the child goes over to his backpack and just whips out a dead squirrel out of his backpack like he's Houdini. This is the stuff that people like there this is, and she's telling this like it just happened. And because it sticks with you, right? These stories stick with you. Like, who pulls a dead squirrel? And now she's not only just worried about a dead squirrel, she's worried about diseases the squirrel has. She's worried about it now contaminating the classroom. What other kids have touched this dead squirrel? It's all the things that you go through your head as a teacher, but that just came to mind because she shared it this week, and it was like, I thought that, oh my goodness, that luckily hasn't happened to me.
My goodness, I that has never happened to me, but if that child had brought a snake to school, dead or alive, they might not ever see me again, Nicole. I would run. I think I would run.
Oh, I can't. You and I share that as well. If it was that, I would have to abort a mission and I would have to go to my teacher next door and be like, "You got to deal with whatever's in that classroom." I probably wouldn't be able to get the words out. I'd just be like pointing and screaming all at the same time. I'm with you on that.
Uh-huh. I would freeze and then I would book it. I would be gone. I don't even know if I could speak.
Okay, this is not a teaching story, but I'm going to tell it real quick. I pushed my own 2-year-old out of the way so I could run when we saw a snake on a path one time. I was with my youngest. She was only 2, and I was there with my parents on this path, and the little gardener snake came by, and I pushed her out of the way so I could run. And it was innate. I didn't mean to. I went back and got her. So I would be worried that if that happened and someone brought one of those into my classroom, I can't even say the name of it, I would just be, I got to get out of here. And I would just bowl over anyone in my way.
I am the same way. That is hilarious. And if there is a snake in a story or they're even talking about a snake or something comes up, you will see me back up slowly because I don't know. I just have to remove myself from the picture image story and start talking about snakes. I can't have.
We used to use this one reading assessment in our district, and there was this one level was as a nonfiction, so realistic, had pictures of, I call them SNs because I don't even like to say the word, but of a snake. And I had to get other teachers, if a child was at that level, to read the story with them. I physically couldn't sit there and look at the real picture. That's crazy. And I know, but that happened. I would used to have to get another teacher to be like, "Sorry, you have to do this assessment for me. I can't read this level with this child because it's got pictures of snakes in it." So yes, I share your sentiments.
We are 2 peas in a pod. When I was in university, I don't know, in some sort of biology class or something, this was decades ago now, I sat beside this guy, this student. I'd never met him before, right? It was probably the first day of school. And I thought, okay, well, find a seat. And I sat down and he had tape, my favorite school supply. And he was taping pages of our textbook together. And I introduced myself and he introduced himself. And I said, "What are you doing?" He was going through the textbook, and anytime there was a picture of a snake, he would tape that picture to that page to the next page so that he would not accidentally flip to it in the future. And I was, oh my gosh, you are my people.
Smart.
Because I'm the same. I'm the same.
Oh. Okay, let's get off this topic.
Have you ever had an animal on the field? Like when the kids are out for recess, have you ever had a bunny, a stray dog, any animal? Oh, ATV. Have you ever had an ATV come on the field?
Not an ATV. We've had a coyote. We've definitely had some stray dogs before. And one time, a moose. What about you?
We have had a coyote, which my friends, some of them say coyote, and when I called it a coyote, they just about hit the floor because they think
Is it
that's
coyote
just off
or
of.
coyote?
I think people say both, but this particular teacher had never heard coyote and she thought I was watching, what's that, like Wile E. Coyote show or something. We've had a bunny. We've also had a time, my friend will have to tell this story sometime because I was not there, but basically a neighbor started driving their ATV on the school field during recess. We've never had a moose. Another campus has had a moose, but what happened when the moose came on the field?
We had to call an internal lockdown. We had to get all the kids inside because they can be scary. You don't want to go up to one of those. So it was one of those situations where it was all hands on deck, everybody inside. It walked back into like the area that it needed to go. It never happened again, but I think the moose was on the loose and the kids were so excited about it. Some didn't want to come inside, of course, but you know.
I would have been like them. I love seeing moose in the wild. I honestly used to, still do. Even when I was just at home visiting family, I am on the lookout all the time for moose in the country. I would have been out there trying to photograph it, I think probably. And there's great literature, great stories, kids' picture books about moose, right? You could have had like a whole month's worth of work.
Yeah, if there's an animal in the field or anything that's obscure, kids are going to run towards it every time. Okay, another funny story that I think would never happen in a workplace. Can you imagine this? Imagine that you changed your hairstyle or you did something different about your appearance and your coworker said to you, "You look horrid. What happened to you?" It would never, like an adult wouldn't say that to an adult. Hopefully, actually that might happen, but hopefully not. Kids are brutally honest with their teachers. Brutally. So again, I've had it said to me a couple of times about different appearances, or I love when they ask how old you are and then they guess like the most obscure age. You're like, yeah, I'm 72 years old, and you're like a new teacher. But I did, however, this week have a child ask if I was 25, and I said, you betcha, you betcha. I do remember this time where I had changed my hair. I didn't think super drastically, but I had gone from a longer hairstyle to like a bob. So I guess maybe drastically in a child's eyes. And they told me right away, I don't like your hair. That's directly how blunt they were. I don't like your hair. And I was like, okay, well, honey, like, sorry, but that's my haircut. Like, that's fine. You can like different things type of thing. But the next day they came to school with, I'm guessing they stole from home, a roll of tape. And they asked me to tape my hair back on. They obviously hated it so much that they went home, found a way of figuring out how to solve the problem that they didn't like, and came back to school and tried to fix it. To which I explained that you cannot tape hair back on your head. However, they tried. Anyways, that was just one of those things where it's like another workplace. Can you imagine if a coworker came to you and was like, here, please, I don't like how you look. Please fix it. Like,
they get so attached to us, right? Well, I think at all ages, but I mean, we sure see that at elementary, and including our hairstyles, apparently. One day I was greeting my kids at the door and this little girl stopped in front of me and she looked at me and said, something's different about you. I don't know. Like, I got a new shirt and she goes, did you brush your hair today? So, well, I do brush my hair every day. It was just the funniest. I don't know if she thought I'd brushed my hair for the first time. Last year, I think I dyed my hair darker. My hairdresser is amazing, but it was a bit darker than they were used to. And one of the students just stopped me in the hall and said, why did you do that?
and
So
they're
funny.
so
They're so
brutally
honest.
honest, which is maybe good and bad in the same thing. Here's the thing. I was thinking about this. There's so many stories, and when we started talking about this last week about doing this episode, I had a couple that came into my mind, but just after talking right now, I could share so many more. So that might have to be maybe the segment or something like that, where it's like we share a funny story that happens. And I know as we go on, people will share things with us too that we can put on here, but there's wild things that happen every day that people wouldn't know. So for me, a takeaway is that you never know what's going to happen next. Be prepared for anything at any time.
It's so true. When you have so many children in your care, anything can happen. Teaching's really a profession like no other. I think, first we're a teacher, but then we're a parent when the kids are away, right? From there, we're a nurse, we're a doctor, we're a therapist, we're a lawyer, sometimes a police officer. I could go on, but we're basically all things to everyone.
Yeah, it was just fun today to kind of run through and see what happens. And we know that we're not alone in this. We know that everybody can share a crazy, wild story that happens on a daily, weekly basis in their own school building. That was really fun to run through some of the things that stick in our minds.
We say this often at school, right? Things happen. And I say to people, you need to write this down, right? And really, as teachers, we need to be writing these things down and sharing them because they are unbelievable.
They're wild. Thanks everyone for listening, and we can't wait to hear your crazy and unimaginable stories that happen in your classrooms on a daily basis. We'll catch you next time.
See you soon.
Wait, is that the dismissal bell? The buses are rolling and we've got duty.
Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of the Teachers Next Door podcast. If you enjoyed this week's PD session, leave us a rating, 5 stars preferably, and a review. Think of it as giving us an A+ on our eval. It helps other listeners find their way to our neighborhood. As the kids say, please subscribe.
Do you have a burning question or topic you would like to hear about? Send us an email or message. Be sure to follow us on Instagram for show updates and details on future episodes.
This podcast was produced and edited by us, your teachers next door. No outsourcing here. The reality of all teachers, we do it all.
If nobody else has told you today, just remember, you are doing a great job. Catch you next time.
And we should mention, the ideas we share on this podcast are totally our own.